Hello, everyone. Thank you for staying for my talk. Thank you very much. I wanted to tell you about a project that I'm super excited about. It's one we've been working on in collaboration with Imperial NHS Healthcare Trust, and we've had the absolute honour of working with an amazing dementia care specialist team. And we have a rule when we work together, and our rule is say yes. That's it. I'm off. No. Our rule is say yes to ideas. And a little while ago, about a year and a bit ago, my nan was taken into hospital with pneumonia. And while she was there, because of her feeling of social isolation, she's quite a happy person. She's often in social contact with a lot of people, but because of the ward that she was on, because she was quite far away in the hospital, it was difficult to get to see her. And while she was there, she also experienced confusion, and it's a confusion that we call delirium. And it's a common condition. It can lead to paranoia. Often it's associated with the nurses are trying to poison me. That's a common delusion that can happen. You've probably heard a little bit about that. Yeah. And I wondered what I could have done to help her. I'm not that kind of doctor. I wish. But I wondered what we could do with the arts, because I have this strong feeling that as artists we have a social responsibility to work with people and to work with people responsively, thinking about what they need, what's important to them, and how we can create joy. And the importance of joy and well-being for patients who are feeling a lack of agency because someone else is deciding they're making a lot of medical decisions about their body, about what's going to happen to them, about the tests that they're running. And it's very difficult for patients to feel agency, so it takes away a lot of independence being in a hospital. And you can feel very confused because of the monotony of the ward. It's not anyone's fault, that's just the situation, that's the environment. And I wonder what we could do to create a bit of magic for people. I quite like PowerPoint. And this is it's a common theme. So I spoke to the dementia team, and they said, what are you working on at the moment? I said, well, I've seen that YouTube has the ability to create VR experiences in little headsets. Should we do that? And they said, well, yes, all right. Let's make it happen. What can it do? How do we do that in a way that's responsive and responsible and bespoke to the needs of different patients? I think the best way to tell you about that is to tell you some stories. Is it all right to tell you some stories? Is that okay? Oh, thanks. So the first thing that's important, I want to tell you about the story of Mary. Don't worry, all the names have been changed, but I wanted to tell you about Mary because she's got a special place in my heart. Mary is a patient who missed home and family a lot. She was brought into a hospital for a number of reasons, and during the time when she was staying there, it was decided that she wouldn't be able to return home and live independently. She was going to be moving into a care home. And Mary had a dog, not a little lamb, different Mary. But Mary had a dog at home, and because she was moving into a care home, she couldn't take the dog with her. Yeah, and you can imagine how devastating that is when you are somebody you're on your own and you don't have family members around you. And Mary also had an aspiration to go to the zoo. Since she was a little girl, she's always wanted to go to the zoo, but because she had reduced mobility because of the reason she was in hospital, it was very unlikely that she could go. So we thought, we'll bring the zoo to Mary. So we asked Mary, what are your favorite animals, Mary? Mary likes monkeys. Mary also likes giraffes. So we took Mary on a virtual reality tour of the zoo to her favorite animals, which she can take with her, and she watched on the VR headset. You'll see a photo of her at the end, so you can see what it's like. And it brought her a lot of pleasure. She started talking to the animals and commentating on what she could see to the clinical nurse and the applied theatre practitioner, who's one of our MA Applied Theatre students from Royal Central from last year. And it's brought her a lot of joy. And I guess it gave her a sense of certainty. When everything else around you is uncertain and people are making decisions on your behalf for good reasons, it's very difficult to have something that's kind of yours and certain, whereas the VR will always be there for Mary. The VR will always be a consistent memory and support for her, no matter what's going on. And she can revisit the zoo whenever she wants to with a bespoke story that's about her. It comes from her. It's what she wanted. It's something we created in collaboration with her. And it's just a simple story that walks her through to her favorite animals. And that's Mary. That's a way for us to look at the possibilities of virtual reality, 360 video, to create an experience for her. Can I tell you some more stories? Is that okay? Still with me, still awake? Wonderful. Good news. I'd also like to tell you about Peter. So another challenge in hospital is trying to find points of connection, and this dementia team that I'm working with are awesome at this. They're amazing. They go around and they create a lot of social activities and workshops for patients. And this forms part of them. And part of the reason for doing that is to create connections between people, because if you have a neurodegenerative condition, for example, dementia, which a lot of the patients engaging in this project are living with, then it's really important to find social connection and keep that part of the brain stimulated and active. It's very, otherwise if you are isolated and confused and bored, let's face it, it can be very boring being in hospital for long periods of time. It can make your condition go downhill very quickly. So we wanted to find a way that could be stimulating for people. And Peter was our expert technologist. He's worked with television before in the past. He's got a career that was in TV, and he wanted to play with VR. So we used a tablet for him, and he was scanning across, and he was looking at the National Geographic channel. And he didn't necessarily want us to create a video for him, but what that moment did was to make him remember about the time when he was diving, which he wanted to tell us about. And you could just see the excitement on his face as he was retelling his adventures under the sea, and told the nurse and the student who was with him in an animated fashion about everything that he used to enjoy about being an adventurer. So it gave him a moment where he could relive that and be excited in a hospital environment where he's normally on his own and bored, and feeling agitated because of the boredom. So it's another way to engage people, and that is Peter's story. Can I tell you another? Oh, thanks. It's a bit difficult. Have you said no? Another patient I want to tell you about is Daniel. Daniel was living with dementia. He also had experienced quite a major stroke, which had meant that a previously very healthy, very active man had lost a lot of mobility down one of his sides completely, which meant that he was going to be moved into a care home for support, just to enable him to live independently with a lot of carers around him, which is very difficult for him and his wife, who also worked with us on this project. And they told us one of the things that he missed the most was their walks. They used to go on Saturday morning, go for a walk through Epping Forest. And there was a particular route that they really liked. We said, well, can we create it for you? And he said, well, he'd love that. So we created a film of his route through Epping Forest on the walk that he used to take with his wife, that they can experience, at least in some sense, in virtual reality together. And it's a walkthrough that's facilitated by a storyteller who's walking with him, so he can get the feeling of the motion of going through that particular environment. And it's something that can keep that memory alive for him and his wife. And it's something that's bespoke and special for them. For us, it's really important. You could make, of course, lots of videos about different environments, and that's great. But for us, it's a personal thing that's important, person-centered, and making sure that that person has agency in the stuff that's created with them, not for them or to them, but with them. That's really important for us. And this is part of the stories. He also really liked Kew Gardens. So we filmed around Kew Gardens, and there were some pieces of poetry that he really liked. So this is some of the imagery from the poetry that's kind of in VR that we put on top of it to layer that reality for him, to make it even more magical, so that he could find moments of wonder and to see what moments of wonder can do in terms of subjective well-being and the way that that can make a patient feel in a monotonous environment. One more, will you indulge me? Thanks. So the next phase of our project is going to be looking at how do we create more interaction for patients. So if we go to the seaside, because a lot of people want to go to the beach, particularly in the summer, that's a request we get a lot. That's not surprising, I'd like to go too. But what we wanted to do is make it interactive so that the facilitator is giving instructions to the person in the headset so that they can feel the environment. For example, if we go to the beach, we want a warmed tray of sand that someone can curl their toes in. And we want the scent of the sea using aromatherapy oils. We might pick up shells and other artifacts from that environment that people can handle and touch. There's another lady, Mary again, who would really like a video of throwing a ball for a dog. So we're going to create that for her. We've got a prototype already. Inside the headset, you can see someone's hand, and the instructions to you as the wearer of the headset are, can you pop your hand out? We're going to put a ball in your hand. The facilitator does that, and we have to duck. But she can throw the ball for the dog and see the dog running for it and coming back. So it can create that kind of companionship for her. It's not the same. It's not the same as her having her dog. We know that. But it's a way of trying to create elements of wonder to help heighten well-being for somebody. So to conclude, thank you for indulging me. What does it do? What does bespoke VR do for people? What have we learned? Well, we've learned that it can create moments of agency for people to have the stories that they want told in a virtual environment. It creates care. It's a different type of care because we're listening and we're responding and we're creating something with the patients. It creates play. It's often fun, and the stories are coming from the patients about things they'd like to see and experience. So play is really important as a way to create enjoyment. It provokes imagination and creativity in us as facilitators, but also in the patient to try and keep those parts of the brain active so that we're avoiding the monotony and the impact of boredom and agitation on the patients. It creates wonder. It creates wonder. So this is often an experience that people think you can only have in early childhood. You know, children experience the rainbow. You saw that at the beginning for the first time. Did you know there's a moon bow? Yeah, there's such a thing. Yeah, I know. I didn't know. It made me wonder, right? See what I did. A moonbow happens at night. It can happen at night with the light as well when it's refracting. But it creates elements of wonder for people. So they say in early childhood, everything is a wonder to you because it's the first time you've experienced it. But I wondered what wonder we could create for patients if they could re-experience something that was familiar through an unfamiliar type of technology. And the response we're getting is often awe or excitement, enthusiasm, and revisiting the same environment, which is a sense of certainty. Here we go. Certainty in a precarious situation where you don't know the prognosis of what's going on for you in hospital and you don't know what's going to happen. But it can create that level of certainty that you can always go back to. So it's something that's secure, that's yours, and it's just yours. It's made specially for you. And I guess the hope with this is that it creates an experience of joy. So when we start our videos, we start them from the ward environment, and we start them from a hospital bed so that it doesn't confuse the patient. And then we gradually use music to suggest we're going into another world. And the world starts to dissolve and slowly appear in front of the patient. This is Mary with her headset on watching the animals. And then they return to the hospital afterwards to avoid delirium. And I hope, and I think we've got some of our MA students in the room with us today, that we continue to expand this because it's really important to create joy, and as artists I think that's a gift that we can share. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely fantastic. And can I just say that Nikki and her team won the Outstanding Arts and Creativity in Dementia Care Award this year from the National Dementia Care Award. So please congratulations.